Hello and welcome to Superpower Broadcasting. I'm Kevin Castley. Thank you for tuning in tonight. Tonight we are going to be discussing President Biden's cancellation of the Keystone XL pipeline. This is very problematic. Now, I told you in the run-up to the election, afterwards, etc., that yes, Biden was obviously preferable to Sanders, and that on the net he was preferable to Trump when it came to foreign policy handling. However, I also said we're going to be calling him out where he deserves it and where he deserves to be criticized. And this is one such example. In fact, he did a few unfortunate executive orders in his first day as president. And it's the sort of thing that this is kind of a big deal. And I think that when we look at the Keystone XL pipeline, this is something that would have been a great asset to Western solidarity, to economic resolve in the face of communist China and especially fascist Russia. And now, not only are 1,000 jobs at stake here and basically just being thrown to the curb, we're essentially handing over, a portion of the world economy, very, very small, albeit, but I would argue significant nonetheless, over to the Russians so that they can sell their oil and whatnot abroad. It's unfortunate. Now, the Keystone XL pipeline specifically, I believe, let me just take a look at this. So the Keystone XL pipeline that was actually basically outright canceled. It was, a pipeline that would have been a great aid to both of our economies in Canada and the United States. And it's no surprise that as a result of this, obviously a lot of people, and especially Alberta, are very upset. You got the premier of Alberta, and yeah, there's rhetoric about going to war with the U.S. and whatnot. It's unfortunate when you've got a series of presidents that are basically, they have no problem with essentially wearing down that alliance. And the alliance between the U.S. and Canada is really good. It's a very good alliance. But Trump obviously did some stuff to hinder it. Biden's continuing with that and pushing for this and actually trying to get rid of the Keystone XL pipeline. Who wins from this? Do the Canadian people win? Do the American people win? No. This, as I said, is just a great way to get rid of 1,000 jobs and undermine our energy independence. But you know who wins from it bigly? That's Vladimir Putin in the Kremlin. He's pretty happy, He gets to keep on exporting oil, right? That's where 2/3 of his government revenue comes. So he's happy. Now, this is going to be a pretty short stream, but I did essentially just want to go over this because I think it's important. A lot of people are celebrating the victory of Biden. And even if you support him on other policies, you could still recognize that this in particular is just a great way to undermine Western economic stature as well as security in the long run. Because as I've argued, if we don't counter Russia on gas, it's going to come to an actual full war with them eventually. And that's really unfortunate. So I don't really even know what to say. I mean, it was to be expected. Obviously, this was a campaign promise, but there was hope. I had some speculation that some of Biden's promises was just rhetoric to play lip service to the progressives because he doesn't actually need them. He didn't need them to win. And they don't regard him in any favorable manner. They still think of him as a far-right guy. So it's unfortunate that he still followed through on this. And I will tell you, I was impressed to see Biden when he was, shortly after the inauguration, when he was inducting the presidential appointees in administering their oath of office, about 1,000 of them. And he did say, he's like, look, he basically implied the Trump administration was crass. They thought they were better than everybody. And he's like, look, you work for the American people. And if I catch you, or if it's brought to light that you're disrespectful towards the American people or towards your colleagues, you're just going to get straight up fired. And I kind of like that. I kind of like that he was just laying down the law like that. Like, look, you guys get 6-figure salaries to be paid by the American people. And then obviously we saw a lot of just, straight up insults and whatnot by, for example, press secretary towards the press. Just really immature sort of behavior that you would expect higher from the office of the president, and obviously Joe Biden wants to set a different tone with that. But on the actual economics of this, it's going to be problematic. It's definitely going to be problematic. And we could talk about how, Donald Trump did owe money to the Russians. His own son admitted it. I mean, that was one of the big reasons why I said, look, you can't go with Trump. The guy literally owes money to the enemy. That's a problem. Even if he's not like an actor, even if he's not an agent, even if there's no FSB agent telling him what to do or say or anything, if you owe hundreds of millions of dollars of money to somebody, even if you are a billionaire, that's going to influence you. And that's a problem. So Biden was still an improvement over that. But unfortunately, on this, he still hands Putin a win. So even though Putin, he'd say, well, he's got to be upset that Trump's out, and he said he supported Trump against Hillary Clinton. Well, Joe Biden isn't exactly the worst choice, if you're Vladimir Putin, because this obviously helps Russia big time. I mean, I've been arguing on this channel, since one of the first videos I ever put out was how to bankrupt Russia, how to defeat Russia without firing a shot. I said, look, we just have to lower oil prices, keep them really low, and Russia won't be able to make any money, and they'll go bankrupt, and the people will come for Putin's head on a platter because he can't pay their pension. And where does he get his money from? 65% of government revenue comes from the export of oil and gas. So let's just lower the price below whatever is profitable for him and keep it there for a few years. He won't be able to handle the heat. But we're not going to do that because my global warming and my environment and all that, my progressives, right? Oh yeah, I had some brainlet trying to tell me earlier something like that the progressives have the monopoly on the working class or working class issues. I'm like, I didn't even respond. I just thought it was goofy. I'm like, are you kidding me? Almost everyone who's working class that I know is conservative. But moreover, on the actual economics of it, the progressives want to essentially force the working people into indentured servitude to pay taxes all the time to fund a huge welfare state. And nobody can ever get anywhere because everybody's burdened by taxation. And moreover, they're celebrating right now as literally 1,000 jobs were kicked to the curb. I mean, there was a big deal when Trump was going to allow a carrier factory to basically move outside the United States. I think it employed something like about 1,000 workers, and people were upset. And he came in and said, no, we're going to keep it here. And then news stories broke a little while after that it turned out he did allow for some of the outsourcing in that plant to actually go through. And people were mad. But this is 1,000 jobs here. Are those same people that were mad about the Trump thing going to be mad about Biden? Because I'm mad about both. I'm against outsourcing, right? I talk about that on the show quite a bit now. And it's not even so much that it's something that I particularly want to talk about that much. But it is really relevant to foreign policy. And the brainlet brigades, the haters of mine, the guys right now calling me hashtag mercantilist Castley and hashtag cornlaw Kevin, those guys, and you'll see them in the chat and whatnot, and in the comments and some of the recent videos. Those guys think that I'm cringe and a communist basically because I'm against outsourcing and I want to get tough on communist China, and I'm against this fetishization of free trade, for example. So And of course, I've spoken with Net 7, for example, and we both regard the future of neoconservatism as having a protectionistic pro-worker message, coupled with a strong national security message, right? And that's the sort of thing that pisses off a lot of people, and obviously that offends a lot of corporate interests that just want to make a quick profit off of cheap Chinese labor, and they don't care about the Cold War that we're in. They just want to make a quick buck, even if it destroys the capitalist system in doing so, because they can't think longer than a fiscal year, unfortunately. I think that this case here illustrates that there's going to be a double standard. People were upset when Trump was going to allow Carrier to move out and outsource. Are those same people that jumped on that to make the orange man look bad? Are they going to jump on Biden over this? Probably not. Probably not. Not most of them. People like me, yes, because it's not about party or anything. But 1,000 jobs is 1,000 jobs, and people can say, and this probably won't be discussed. And people on my side would probably say, yeah, don't bring this up. This isn't a good talking point for you. Look, I talk about this in cost benefit analysis, how, oh, we created 50,000 jobs. Isn't that awesome? Vote for me. It's like, yeah, but if you didn't create those jobs in building some stadium or something, you know that those people would have worked somewhere else. They wouldn't have just been like sitting around doing nothing. So the answer, or the question rather, is what's the most optimum use of the labor that's available? Assuming that if you don't do this project, you're not losing jobs, they'll just go somewhere else. You could say about this, well, are the jobs really lost? They can go somewhere else. It's like, that's technically true, except this isn't, are we going to do something or not? This has been in talks for a long time. You are actually losing about 1,000 jobs. Yes, technically those people can go on unemployment insurance and whatnot and find work elsewhere. But what about the actual opportunity cost of giving up this plant? Because what's the benefit for Biden? The benefit for Biden is he wins points with the progressives. He gets to look like a progressive champion on the environment and everything. And what's the downside? Oh, Russia gets to have a bigger share of the world oil market. And we're inevitably going to be drawn into a physical conflict with them because we won't get tough and bankrupt them. So have fun with your nuclear war in 20 years or whatever. But here's the sad part. Biden doesn't even actually get that benefit. You know what all the progressive networks and figures are saying about him? They're calling him a neoliberal far-right guy. They don't give him credit for anything. They're not going to give him credit for this. They're going to say, oh, but he's still a corporate Democrat, and he just did this to like try to win us over and stuff. And it's like, they won't give him credit for anything. He could literally take all Bernie's positions tomorrow. They're not going to give him credit. They're just going to say, oh, he's a corporate Democrat and stuff and whatnot. They hate Biden. They hate Biden. Listen to the Young Turks. Listen to Vosh. Vosh was like, oh, yeah, well, he's still a neoliberal. And, you know, we preferred him over Trump, but now we're going to dunk on him for 4 years and all this kind of stuff. It's like, look, you're not winning any favors, Biden. You're not winning any favors. And you know what? Here's the thing. He talked a lot about bipartisanship. He talked a lot about reaching out. This is going to piss off a lot of Republicans. Now, granted, of course, he's a Democrat. He's going to lose people on the other side, obviously. But this is an important one where I think people on the left and the right should be able to come together and say, yes, we want to have energy independence. We want to fight the Russians. We want to have more jobs. I mean, there was a time when the left did support the oil industry. That was true. That there was a time when the left supported U.S. manufacturing, U.S. oil, likewise in Canada. And now they see it as dirty. They see it as, ooh, it's bad and everything, because of course the Russians have hyped up this whole meme about how, oh, what about global warming and everything. It's like, oh, that's convenient, isn't it? We unilaterally don't drill anything. They get to have a bigger share of the market. That's literally their lifeblood. We take that away from them. We don't have to do a nuclear war with them. We do this route. We're going to have a physical war with them because they're not going to go bankrupt. And that system will become more desperate and belligerent. And that's ridiculous. So this isn't going to be a long stream. I will take a look at the chat, but I do want to say before I go off air, I'm not disappointed. I expected that this was probably going to happen. I had some hope that Biden would put this on the back burner and not actually bother following through on what we had characterized as his lip service to the progressives. It turned out he was genuine about it. I think it's unfortunate. I think it's unfortunate, and I think what you're going to see is a souring of relations between a lot of big figures in Canada and the United States. But there are a lot of people in the United States. We have to remember here that for all this, like, oh, Canada's upset at America and America's going to be upset at Canada, most rational Canadians and most rational Americans both think this is a dumb idea. So regardless of what country you're in, regardless of your allegiance and whatnot, we can all agree that this was something that was good for both of us, this pipeline. And Biden has taken it away from us. So we can all be upset about that. You don't have to be Canadian to be upset about it. And in fact, there are a lot of Canadians that are happy about this because they're coastal, not necessarily even elites, but like a lot of middle-class coastal people who, their parents make six figures, they go to school or whatever, or they have white-collar jobs and everything. And like they're so disconnected from the oil industry that they see the oil industry as just bad. And they don't really understand where so much of the base of our economy actually is derived from. Never mind our security interests. And again, oil is a big one considering that our main enemy is Russia. And they literally would go bankrupt if we got serious about this. So, but it's easy to point fingers and say, oil workers bad. Workers deserve this, man. It's like, no, that's stupid. That's stupid. I mean, I miss when the left side was more in agreement with the right on stuff like this. I mean, this is a pretty new thing in the last 25, 30 years to have the left basically be anti-oil industry, anti-oil workers, right? They used to be pro. So we will take a look at the chat. Mr. No says the Keystone pipeline is the reason we were able to stop relying on Saudi oil. The U.S. doesn't rely on Saudi oil. The U.S. is not dependent on that. Like less than 10% of U.S. oil comes from Saudi Arabia. Mr. No says Joe Biden really wants to ruin Canada and America by doing this. Yeah. I think it's a problem. I think it's a big problem, and it sets a tone. Moreover, obviously, this wasn't going to go to Europe. This was between Canada and the U.S. But it sets a tone that we're not going to be looking at getting oil over to our partners and whatnot to wean them off of Russia. We're just going to say oil bad. I mean, if the U.S. and Canada can't even exchange oil between themselves, how are we ever going to get the political will to get Europe off of dependence on Russian energy? Because we should be the ones supplying Europe with that. We should have a Marshall Plan level commitment to massive investment in getting Russia completely off of, or Europe completely off of Russian oil. Imagine what the political culture in Germany would be like if they didn't need Russia for anything. Wouldn't that be awesome? We could maybe see a more tough European Union. So, Oka says, Dan Crenshaw, cancel Keystone, greater than Russian oligarchs. I'm not exactly sure what you're even getting at. Dan Crenshaw is awesome. He's like one of my favorite politicians. So, Canada will definitely be mad, and rightly so. Yeah, a lot of people in Canada. The Brainlet Brigades will celebrate it. Do you think this will sour American relations with Canada? I think Alberta specifically for sure. Trudeau be happy about it and everything. So there goes our chance for Alberta to join the U.S. Well, just wait. See, it depends how bad things get under Trudeau. Well, that's about everything I got for you tonight. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to like this video. I do daily streams and daily premieres. you can definitely check out the links in the description. Go follow me over on Twitch and Facebook, as well as Gab and Minds. If you'd like to support what I do, my Patreon, Ko-Fi, and PayPal links are also there too. So thank you to all the recent donors, and I will see you in the next video. Take care. Have a good night.